For months now, there have been murmurs about where the all-important Trump-Kim meeting will take place. The United States president has put that speculation to rest. Donald Trump took to Twitter to confirm the date and venue of this meeting. He tweeted, and I quote, "The highly anticipated meeting between Kim Jong Un and myself will take place in Singapore on the 12th of June. We will both try to make it a very special moment for world peace." The confirmation comes hours after reports emerged in the American media that the autonomous state of Singapore will play host to Trump and Kim. The choice of Singapore is significant. The US and North Korea both have embassies in this country, which is known for its neutral position in all international conflicts. It is also known for its tight security, which is a major concern for the North Korean leader, no less for Donald Trump. Kim Jong Un has travelled outside his nation after assuming power only on 3 other occasions. This will be a big event for him, by all accounts. WION's Kevin McAllister joins us from Washington, D.C. with more on this. Good evening, Kevin. What else has Mr. Trump chosen to share with the world?
Well, yeah, after weeks of speculation, we now have a date and we now have a location. He went for the small island nation of Singapore. He had flirted with notions of perhaps hosting this historic summit in the DMZ. He'd had invitations from Sweden, from Switzerland. I think Mongolia was also in the mix, but he has gone for Singapore. As you said, his advisors have pointed out that this is a venue that would be known, a location known well for its security, its neutrality. It's got a good track record in hosting high-level meetings. And, of course, Pyongyang also has an embassy there, a mission there, which would be significant for what, remember, will be the first time a sitting US president has come face-to-face for talks with a North Korean leader. So it's a major step. It had been promised and teased by this administration for some time. But today, in just a simple tweet, Donald Trump confirmed that this summit, number one, is going to go ahead, but also where the eyes of the world will now be watching come June the 12th.
And he must be on a high, given the diplomatic win, as many are calling it, with the release of the 3 American prisoners from North Korea.
Absolutely. You saw the United States president on the tarmac in the wee small hours of the morning to welcome home those 3 American prisoners released by North Korea. Donald Trump praising the North Korean leader for his role in that release and talking about it as, you know, a gesture of goodwill ahead of this all-important summit where there is so much on the table. You know, Donald Trump has said, I want to see the complete, verifiable denuclearization of South Korea. And he put it even in more simpler terms quite recently, saying, I want all the nukes gone, out, gone. And those are his terms. That's what he's told us, at least, he's going in with on June the 12th. We're not exactly sure what North Korea's idea of disarmament looks like just yet. Of course, historically, their one insurance policy has been having nuclear weapons. But Donald Trump has made it clear that he's not willing to bend on this. He wants a great deal. Of course, he is the guy who very recently killed the Iran deal, or the US involvement in that deal. He's all about making good deals, he tells us. So he'll certainly be hoping to get what he wants out of this summit. But you remember, he says every time he speaks about North Korea and about this face-to-face, he always says, we'll see what happens.
I have a feeling this meeting will be making news for the fact that it happened and little beyond that. But Kevin, thanks very much. A month is a long time in politics, especially with Donald Trump at the helm. The North Koreans have warned him to not put pressure on the détente by claiming credit for it. So we'll have to see how this goes. But 12th of June it is in Singapore. Now that the venue has been decided, the important question for Kim to address will be the mode of transport. No small matter, we can tell you, in the North Korean context. Kim's mystery train, remember, made headlines when he arrived in Beijing last month. But word is that the leader of North Korea will shun the bulletproof train for a fancier ride when he goes to meet the American president. There is a slight problem, though. Kim has just 3 jets. The most powerful among them is the Ilyushin IL-62. It's a Soviet-era aircraft which has not been under production for the last 20 years. That's not all. This aircraft is now banned at various airports across the world as it fails to live up to the standards of modern aviation. Experts say it is not capable of trans-Pacific flights due to lack of maintenance. A better option would be the military transport variant of the same family of aircraft, the Illusion I L-76MD. It's a 4-engine turbofan airlifter which Kim used to fly to Dalian to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping only a couple of days back. Perhaps it was a test flight, some say, for this plane to see how far it takes him. And if all else fails, Kim could hire a chartered flight from a third party, possibly China. They could lease a plane from China, especially in the wake of the newfound camaraderie between the two leaders. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be embarking on a 2-day visit to Nepal this week. He is likely to announce 3 separate surprise gifts for Kathmandu, Janakpur and Muktinath temple. He will visit Hindu temples and reach out to the people of Nepal. As close neighbours, India and Nepal share a unique relationship, that of friendship and cooperation, characterised by open borders and deep-rooted people-to-people contact. WION Siddhant Sibal reports from Kathmandu.
Nepal is all set to welcome the Indian Prime Minister, who will be on a 2-day visit to the country from 11th to 12th of May. He will be visiting 3 cities, Janakpur, Kathmandu and Muktinath. He will be jointly inaugurating the Arun 3 project along with the Nepal's Prime Minister. The Arun 3 project is the biggest infrastructure and hydroelectric power project in Nepal.
The Indian Prime Minister will depart from Patna on an Indian Air Force helicopter and land at Janakpur's Paharbika. He will address a public rally in Janakpur, which is set to be linked to Indian tourism's WION circuit. Modi will arrive in Kathmandu after completing his official engagements in Janakpur. Prime Minister Modi will be accorded a ceremonial welcome at Tundikhel in Kathmandu before he meets with Prime Minister KP Oli for delegation-level talks. Prime Ministers Oli and Modi will lay the foundation of Arun 3 hydroelectricity project through video conferencing. In Mustang, the Indian Prime Minister will visit Muktinath, which is a sacred place for both Hindus and Buddhists. Within Hinduism, it is called Mukti Kshetra, which literally means the place of liberation or moksha. This temple is considered to be the 106th among the available 108th Divya Desams considered sacred by the Sri Vaishnava sect.
The Prime Minister of India is leveraging diplomacy with faith. He, along with the Prime Minister of Nepal, will be jointly inaugurating a bus service from Janakpur, which is the birthplace of Goddess Sita, towards Ayodhya. And Janakpur will be part of the Ramayana circuit. Of course, the Prime Minister of Nepal will be receiving the Indian Prime Minister at the Janki temple in Janakpur, while the Defence Minister will be receiving the Indian Prime Minister when he arrives here in Nepal.
Oli's visit was seen as an attempt to repair Nepal's ties with India. In 2016, Oli had publicly criticized India for allegedly interfering in Nepal's internal matters and accused it of toppling his government. India is Nepal's largest trading partner and the largest source of foreign investments, besides providing transit for almost the entire third country trade of Nepal. India accounts for over 2/3 of Nepal's merchandise trade, about 1/3 of trade in services, 46% of foreign direct investments, almost 100% of petroleum supplies, and a significant share of inward remittance on account of pensioners and workers.
Well, India-Nepal ties have been a roti-beti ka rishta. The relationship has been a special one, and the Indian Prime Minister would like to make it more special with this visit. This is the 3rd visit of the Indian Prime Minister. He first came to Nepal on a bilateral visit. Then he went to SAARC for another visit, and he came here in Nepal. And finally, this visit is happening. Big focus will be on how the Indian Prime Minister tries to build new bonds between New Delhi and Kathmandu. With video journalist Neeraj Patel, Siddhant Sibal from Kathmandu.
As Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi visits Nepal, there's a lot that the two sides are hoping to achieve apart from inaugurating some of those development projects. Faith will, of course, be an important aspect. And that is something that both sides will be focusing on, the faith diplomacy, as many are calling it. But there is one elephant in the room, and that is China. South Asia was once considered India's backyard. Now has to deal with increasing Chinese influence. From Islamabad to Colombo to Dhaka to Kathmandu, China it seems is here to stay in South Asia. Siddhant Sibal sent us this report.
When in Rome, do as the Romans do, goes a saying. But if China has its way, when in Kathmandu, do as the Chinese do. China is increasing its influence in the whole of South Asia, from the Maldives to Nepal. Just walk around the bazaars of Kathmandu and one can't miss noticing China's presence. Its omnipresence across the city. From signboards to Chinese tourists, to businesses, to hotels, go to shops and you will find many of them being owned by Chinese. Chinese currency changers are everywhere.
Tourists तो world के आते हैं, लेकिन ज़्यादा dependent अब Chinese पे हुआ बीच में, लेकिन जो बुनचाल हुआ था इधर से बहुत फर्क आ गया, लगभग 70% कम आ रहे हैं अब Chinese, क्योंकि रोड से आते थे बहुत सारे, प्लेन से सब नहीं आ सकते हैं, तो रोड तो बंद हो गया, पहाड़ गिर गए, तो उससे फर्क हो गया।
China has quietly flooded Kathmandu.
There seems to be a growing influence of China here in Kathmandu. I'm standing in the Thamel area of Kathmandu, which is the business district of this city. There are over 200 Chinese shops and hotels in this place itself. And you can even get a China SIM if you're flying to China from Nepal. And the influence is so much that even the signboards are here are in English and in Chinese.
Tourism, which forms an essential part of Nepal's economy, has a major Chinese role today. China is the second largest source of foreign tourists to Nepal. Over 100,000 Chinese tourists visit Nepal annually. But it's difficult to start a conversation when they don't know English and you don't know Chinese.
Travel, tourist.
Sorry.
Okay, you want to go.
A walk through the markets explains how China is here to stay.
Before it was very nice. After the earthquake and blockade, there are no more tourists. Before, there are lots of tourists anytime, no any off season. Nowadays, during the season also no more tourists.
Okay.
Very few. Is usually are here.
Okay.
Normally.
Okay.
Lots of them have their own business in here.
80% of the signs in the tourists' guide shops are in Mandarin. The government of Nepal had waived visa fees for Chinese tourists since January 2016. So what is making China-Nepal ties grow stronger? Nepali journalist Jubaraj Jimiri believes the ties haven't been impacted by any issues.
Nepal-China relations, diplomatic relations, are more than six decades old now. And there have rarely been any misunderstanding. One, the scale of, diplomatic relation was not that, massive. Two, Nepal and China didn't have much bigger problems. Even the boundary disputes they sorted out, whereas it's not been sorted out in India. Third, China adopted a very realistic approach in the sense that it always advised Nepalese that China cannot substitute India in Nepal.
Even as India-Nepal ties hit a low, China was making rapid progress with Kathmandu. In recent years, China has emerged as one of the largest FDI contributors to Nepal. The economic engagement between the world's second largest economy and the Himalayan country has kept on growing.
There's a growing influence of China in Kathmandu and rest of Nepal. China has even proposed a connectivity plan that connects China, Nepal and India. But India has said that it would rather pursue its own connectivity plans with Nepal. Clearly, China is the elephant in the room, and the growing Chinese influence in Kathmandu worries New Delhi. With video journalist Neeraj Patel, Siddhant Sibal from Kathmandu for WION.
Now, it's that time in the Karnataka election when the ball is finally in the voters' court. We've seen months of hectic campaigning, high-profile visitors and high-pitched slogans. Now it's the turn of the voter in the largest South Indian state to speak up. Will they give another chance to the Congress party, the incumbent party, or will they allow Prime Minister Modi's BJP to get a foothold in the South? This is where things stand at the end of the final day of campaigning.
The streets of Badami in Karnataka were overflowing with supporters of BJP as Amit Shah led the road show on incumbent Chief Minister Siddaramaia's turf. That was just one of the multiple road shows the party held across the state. Not one or two, as many as 13 central ministers were parade-robbed into the state on the last day of campaigning. Back-to-back news conferences were held to make allegations against their political rivals.
कहने में कोई झिझक नहीं है कि आजाद भारत की सबसे विफल और निकम्मी सरकार सिद्धरामैया सरकार रही है। कर्नाटक की जनता जगह जगह पर कर्नाटक की जनता का गुस्सा सिद्धरामैया सरकार के खिलाफ अनुभव करने को मिला है, देखने को मिला है।
Prime Minister Modi chose the Dalit approach during his address to party cadre in the state and hit out at the Congress for insulting Baba Sahib Ambedkar.
हम बाबा साहब के सशक्त और समृद्ध राष्ट्र के सपने को पूरा करने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं.
While BJP displayed all its might on the ground, Congress was not going to be left behind. The party president, along with the state chief minister, held a news conference where he launched a direct attack against the Prime Minister, accusing him of making personal attacks against his political rivals as a diversionary tactic. The Gandhi sign also criticized Centre's foreign policy and Prime Minister's failure in strengthening India's position globally.
But Mr. Narendra Modi chose to give that deal to his friend. He didn't follow the procedure. He paid 1,500 crores for a plane that the UPA had worked out at 700 crores. Of course it's a great deal. It's a great, absolutely smashing deal for Mr. Narendra Modi, and you can see the effects of it in the amount of money they're throwing around in the state.
For months, the two parties did not hold back their punches in the race that could be a test in the run-up to general elections next year. But as campaigning concludes, the ball is now in the court of the voters. For a report, WION.
This story is about an unusual wedding and a happy ending. A crocodile bit off an arm of a woman in Zimbabwe just days before she was to get married. She did finally get married that day, though in a hospital chapel. Here's the story of 25-year-old Zanel and of renewed hope.
At first sight, they are like any other young couple on their wedding day. Then one notices the bride's missing arm and the bandages. Just days before their wedding day, a crocodile ripped off the arm of 25-year-old Zanel on the Zambezi River in northern Zimbabwe. She was on a canoeing trip with her British fiancé when the crocodile attacked them and punctured their inflatable boat.
Well, firstly, I was just pushing and kicking and trying to fight the croc as much as I could. And eventually, one of the tour guides managed to pull me out of the water and get me onto one of their canoes. And then when I was safe, then they got him out of the water into another canoe.
Tour guides pulled Zanel and her fiancé Jamie Fox out of the water, but with her right arm badly hurt. Doctors amputated her shattered arm just above the elbow, which is now wrapped in a bandage, while her lower left arm is in a splint. But few would have predicted the couple would marry only 5 days later in a hospital chapel. Zanel says she saw no reason to cancel the wedding despite the attack.
We'd actually planned to have the wedding at an outdoor venue here in Bulawayo. Obviously the doctors said they could accommodate to have our wedding at the hospital chapel. And it was decorated beautifully. We had a great day.
Yeah.
After the ceremony, all the rest of the guests went to the venue and celebrated on our behalf, and the two of us stayed at the hospital for the rest of the day. And that was really nice. We had the rest of the day just to ourselves. It's quite nice to have an intimate wedding day together. We were able just to relax together, and yeah, the whole day was amazing. I think I speak for both of us when I say it was the best day of our lives. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Good.
Now the couple are looking to the future, to the possibility of a prosthetic arm and eventually a return to work for Zanel, as well as a move to Britain where they hope to celebrate the gift of their lives together. Bureau Report, WION.